Perikatan in Sabah is essentially Bersatu, and Bersatu as a party has never contested in Sabah. The assembly persons that they had, they were all from the previous UMNO party. So indeed it will be a big test for Bersatu and by extension Perikatan to see whether they could indeed establish themselves in Sabah, given that they rely a lot on UMNO machinery, and UMNO may or may not be willing to go all out to help Perikatan candidates. Thereby, I think Perikatan would at most fare moderately in the Sabah general election. And that, of course, would have national implications. Sabahans are not per se against Malayan parties extending their wings to Sabah. They are just against those Malayan parties which are out to exploit the abundant resources of Sabah by introducing corruptions and various other nefarious practices and tactics, as well as those parties which practice race and religion politics. So you see, for example, DAP it's quite welcome in Sabah. They constantly win seats and so on. But when there are those parties which obviously of a corrupt background or well known for exploiting the resources of Sabah, then they would of course face some difficulties in Sabah. So I think we had to make that clear distinction and not sweep all federal or Malayan parties under the same assumption. If Perikatan Nasional, in coalition with Barisan Nasional, in what they call the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah or GRS, loses the Sabah state election, then indeed I think we would perhaps not see the national general election being held anytime soon, because the momentum for UMNO to push for the general election would be somewhat diminished. So especially if UMNO or Barisan Nasional they lose quite a number of seats, while Perikatan Nasional or Bersatu wins a number of seats comparable to that of UMNO, even exceeding UMNO, then UMNO's push for general election may be slowed down a bit. But a Perikatan win would I think not embolden Muhyiddin to go for general election, because still I think his party would have to lay a lot of groundwork, grassroots works before he's comfortable to go into a general election. If Barisan Plus loses the Sabah state election, of course Pakatan Harapan's hope for reclaiming the federal government would also be similarly deemed. It is of course an open secret that there's some sort of competition between Anwar and Shafee to try to pursue the federal premiership. If that sort of dynamic becomes the main cause of Barisan's loss in Sabah, then of course you will see this sort of competition at the federal opposition bench intensifies, because of course Shafee would not be too pleased, and Anwar would still like to sort of reclaim his much awaited premiership. You see a lot of overlapping between the BN and PN seats, I think up to 17 on the GRS side. So that would, of course, split the votes somewhat. But a lot of these seats are the so-called KDM or Kadazan Dusun Murut seats, where the Warisan Plus candidates or the UPCO candidates may also not enjoy significant support. So this sort of vote splitting on the GRS side, I think is balanced out by the comparatively lower support for UPCO and Warisan. So it will still be a 50-50 competitions in these KDM seats, making them still perhaps the kingmakers in this Sabah state election. BN and PN agreed to the seat distributions in Sabah almost at the last minute, with Muhyiddin flying into Sabah and trying to resolve the stalemate and so on. So it would indeed be a test bed to see whether this roughly equal with UMNO having slightly more seats type of arrangement would indeed hold in the federal election, because I think at the federal level, UMNO would be hard-pressed to give up many seats for Bersatu to contest. Of course, UMNO is not happy to do so, and UMNO would keep on pushing for general election, but with UMNO being allocated a vast majority of seats at the federal level.